As we move into the holiday season, there's some key things that I hear from my guests during our consultations. In general, they want to see warmer, richer tones, they want their hair to be shiny and healthy, and they want their style to be low maintenance so that their appointments can be quick through the holidays. Keeping all of this in mind, the plan that my client and I came up with was to move up some of her highlights, drop in some panels and pockets of depth, and to darken and richen up her overall gloss. We decided to work with rich chocolate and caramel tones using these photos as our guide. And the biggest perk of this plan is that we're able to maintain this look with express glossing services through the busy holiday season. For my lightener, I mixed up Joico Silverlight in 20 volume. And for the depth, I used Joico Lumishine glosses in 6NWB and 6NB. I start by placing a couple lived-in highlights in the back near the nape. For the majority of this technique, the highlights are a deep weave and a deep tease. This will give me the result of bolder ribbons while still maximizing the blend. Between the highlights in the back, I'm adding my depth panels, which are large panels of hair painted from roots to ends with the depth formula. For these panels, I like to comb through to ensure good saturation, and then I wrap with plastic wrap for processing to keep everything neat and clean. I continue with the depth panels up the back of the head, and then as I get to the crown, I switch to a chunky weave lowlight. This prevents any sort of stripy look on the top. I continue with the weave and tease highlights throughout the mohawk, leaving plenty of space in between. To create a more gradient look, I do start to tighten up my spacing a little bit as I get towards the face. I also continue to add depth panels and lowlights through the mohawk, but I do stop as I get about 2 inches away from the face frame so that I don't have any harsh dark pieces right around the face. If you're someone who gets nervous about adding too much depth, one of the rules of thumb that I like to keep in mind is that for your client to appear brunette, you need to have at least twice as much dark as you do light. So don't be afraid to take big sections when you're adding in depth. I continue this same technique and placement through the sides and then allow the highlights to process. After the highlights had lifted to a level 8, I start to pull the foils and hand blend to ensure even saturation and a seamless blend. Once everything is fully processed, I rinse and prep the hair for glossing using Joico Defy Damage Detox. This is a must for me before any color service. Now it's time to get into my favorite part of the service, which is the gloss, and we're going to start by mixing up my root smudge using Joico Lumishine glosses 4N and 6NB equal parts. This is the part of the service that you're going to be using for your maintenance appointments as well, so I like to make sure to move quickly and efficiently. I start at the bottom so that things stay neat and clean, and this also allows me to move through the head quickly because I can push each layer into the next, making sure the color is fully saturated, and it also allows me to brush through to blend as I move up the head. When I'm applying this root smudge, I like to keep in mind the overall shape that I'm trying to create with the depth, which in this case is higher in the front, lower in the back, kind of a teardrop shape. So I make sure to angle my brush and drop the color down lower as I move away from the face. 2 of my key tips to a perfect root smudge is to make sure that you're dropping the color at least 1 inch below the start of the highlight and to brush through super thoroughly for a really nice blend. While that starts to process, we're going to mix up our colors for our gloss, and this color combination is one of my favorites for this time of year. I'm using the Joico Lumishine glosses in 7NB, 9NB, and 8NC. When the subtle violet of the NBs combines with the copper, it just creates the most beautiful neutral caramel. I can't wait for you guys to see how it turns out. When applying this gloss, my focus is saturation and blend. So this is not an area where I'm going to skimp on product. I'm going to make sure to use enough that it can saturate all the way through from roots to ends. And then I'm going to use my hands and the brush to make sure that that's worked through thoroughly. And when it comes to blend, this is where I'm absolutely obsessed with the Lumishine glosses because the consistency allows it to glide through the hair so easily. And I love to really blend that root smudge right into the gloss. And these glosses are just so smooth, the slip really allows me to blend perfectly. Once everything is brushed through thoroughly, I apply a cap and allow the gloss to process for 20 minutes. I finish up by rinsing and conditioning with my personal favorite, the K-Bond 20 mask. And then when we move on to blow drying and styling, we can really start to see the richness and shine from that gloss. And to me, that's really the biggest trend for hair around the holiday times. People love warmth, richness, and shine. I think a lot of times we try to pack in full transformations right before the holidays, but the truth is it's best to keep it simple. We have a lot of people to see, and an express glossing service makes a huge impact in very little time. Here's a quick look at the before and afters, and I think with these photos you can really see a difference that Joico Lumishine gloss makes.